Okay. Streaming time. Adjusting in my chair and making it squeak time. Game for today is called Last Word. From what the itch page said, it's a turn-based RPG where you fight with your words. You debate. That's really loud. And there is a non-zero chance that this could fail catastrophically because... Excuse me, gentlemen, this is the estate of Professor Chatters, is it not? Because apparently the engine this game is made on is very old, and they had to do some weird workarounds so that it would work on modern computers. So that means that things could still go wrong, because that's how those types of things usually go. Indeed, we just arrived as well. The servant should be back out soon, Milady! He'll be letting you in. Don't wait up for us. I didn't expect to see this already. See what? This chit-chat, war of the words, you know, what those two fellows are engaging in right now. Of course! No, after you. All I see is a bit of discourse. Wordplay is common enough at social gatherings, if not entirely expected. Yes, but have you never met Judge Boasting and Mr. McCall? I'm familiar with them, but we've never been formally introduced. Turn this up just a smidge. Why? They continuously attempt to get the last word on each other. It's a pain to listen to. It's as if whomstedev ever speaks last gets a big prize or some such thing. That's exactly the point, young sir. Try not to play ignorant. This is a rather large estate. Only the best for Professor Chatters. Care to come inside? What of the other two? If we wait for them, we'll be out here all evening, freezing our smiles off. Come along. I don't think that man's smiling at all. He shut the door on us, and after inviting us in, can you believe the nerve? Oddly enough, I can. Hopefully the exceptional Professor Chatters will have a bit more manners. You never met with him either. I can't say that I have, but I couldn't refuse his invitation. This should be a fairly high-profile gathering, if I'm not mistaken. It'll be a great boost for my position in the Messenbo Corporation. It's due time we entertained our host, Mr. McCall. After you. Very graceful of you, Mr. Boasting, but I insist you lead the way. I couldn't possibly, Mr. McCall. Mr. Boasting, you simply must allow me the pleasure of letting you go first. But surely. See what I mean? You are a bit ignorant, aren't you? I am Woody Gossip. A pleasure to meet you. I'm Seymour Seymour of Seymour House. A pleasure. What do you say we get inside before it gets much darker? He who scoffs last scoffs best. So, this is the summer house, the estate of Professor Chatters. Now, of course, why state the obvious? Should it be obvious? I've never stepped foot in here before. Good point. You certainly haven't. I don't let just anyone enter the property. You're a bit judgmental for a servant. Possibly, Professor Chatters has strict guidelines for who can and cannot attend his little get-togethers. There are multitudes of dowdy figures vying to tumble through that front door. Sometimes his guests have class, other times I must bite my tongue, like now, for example. I don't suppose you've worked here long with an attitude like that. I'm a professional, Mr. Seymour. I've been here for quite some time, and I never forget a frumpy face. I'll be sure to add you both to my mental catalog of regular attendees. The others are up this way. Follow me. Are you ready? I suppose. This isn't exactly my forte. No? You don't mingle often? My mother handled most of these engagements. She was the head of the Seymour house. I was a bit sheltered myself. Maybe you'll pick up on some of her skills. I can only hope. But maybe a glass of wine first. Arrow keys. Not WASD. It looks like there's a transparent bottle tucked far behind the glass. Dun-dun! Lock topic unknown. Okay. There are a lot of wines to choose from on this shelf. Ba-ba! This bottle on the bar is different from most of the others. Ba-ba! Tonight promises to be interesting. Quite a few new faces. Myself included. Oh, certainly. You especially. And it's bothersome. I come to these parties for some real conversation. Discussions, arguments, gossip. Honestly, miss. Gossip. Witty gossip. I know who you are. I'm being condescending. But as I was saying, Miss Gossip, was it? I don't think you have what it takes to hold your own here. You're serious? I am. Do you disagree? I most certainly do. Excellent! Move the conversation cursor forward to get the last word. Higher levels have a greater starting advantage. Witty is 11 levels lower. Gain power, gain movement. Ouch. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, it seems I've left you speechless. Be a good girl and bring me that glass of 20-year Blanc. It's just delicious. Come now, show some class. Don't leave a thirsty woman awaiting her evening nip. Splash it on her. Talk your way out of this one. You can pour a glass of wine fairly well, at least. I commend you. Simply divine. As you're no doubt aware, there's great power in the ability to get the last word in a conversation. In that brief moment of speechlessness, you are susceptible to my persuasions. It's a positively overwhelming feeling. It certainly is. You don't sound enthusiastic enough, and it bores me to no end. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to strike up a conversation elsewhere. Prime the lock icon to progress the story. It's locked. It's locked. What an odd design. Part copper, part rubber. Ba-ba! Just sit on a chair. The crackle of the warm fire soothes me. No bump-ons that time. I'm a little surprised seeing you talk with Mrs. Prattle like that. You mean just now? What of it? It's just, I don't know. It's like watching a fight. I didn't expect you to take part in it. We've just met, Seymour. Seymour, I don't know why you're already making expectations. You're right. I guess I'm still a little bit flustered. Like I said before, my mother usually handled these affairs. Looks like I have a lot to learn. Well... Common discourse can be summed up by saying that whomever gets the last word wins. To move the conversation forward in the direction you like, you need to carefully juggle 3 types of phrases. It'll be simple. Let's start with a disruptive phrase. The disruptive phrase garnered a small amount of power in the conversation. To really affect the discourse, we need tact. Now that we have some power, select a submissive phrase. But first, we'll give the opposition their turn. I don't get it. The submissive phrase reduced power, but it gained tact. This tact is needed to be aggressive without losing face. We'll go ahead and say an aggressive phrase and watch the conversation truly start to move.
Fireballs, yum!
The more pegs shown over composure, the more conversation moves forward when using aggressive phrases. Composure is important. If someone has damaged composure, they become susceptible to aggressive phrases. Or to be more clear, aggressive phrases move the conversation further if the listener has worse composure. Each phrase uses a tone, square, star, or circle. Damage composure by using a stronger tone. Once the speaker chooses a phrase, they also commit to a tone. The chosen tone is shown as a shape below the person who used it. Balance phrases choice based on resources, immediate effects on the conversation, and tones to get the advantage. More information can be read at the save point. So I guess I go back to this, and I want to do a square because he's at circle. Oh, now he's frustrated. And I can do a submissive. No. Special skill. Paid attention. Paid attention enhances tipping point. XP is gained at a faster rate, and new skills can be learned through observation. Star beats square. Square beats circle, but I want to do a big one. There, lots of tact. And now I want a star. Or I can just do overt. Now another overt should win, right? I'm done, and no one can take this from you. Gain experience after discourse. XP is higher when winning than losing. Feel smarter? I suppose. Just try to remember the phrase civilitas civilitatum. St. Lauden's motto? I never learned Latin. It's not Latin, it's complete gibberish to the finest degree, but everything has meaning. It works as a reminder that within the civilized world, it isn't what you say that matters, but how you say it. Civilitas civilitatum. Our nation hasn't steered us wrong yet. I'll try to keep that in mind. Perhaps we'll start picking up on some of the finer points as I go along.
And so I told the young lady that she could have my hat only if she put down the revolver.
Brilliant tale, Mr. Boasting. I'm sure that impoverished child you saved will never forget your deeds.
Oh, you better not.
Servant, when are we going to meet the professor? At breakneck speed, I assure you. Professor Chatters needs to finish up the equipment before the grand display.
And let's say you tell us what this new device of his is, eh?
I've been sworn to secrecy, but as I'm sure you'd expect, Judge Boasting, but your charm is noted. I encourage you all to mingle while we wait. The wine is out in court. Enjoy it.
It looks like we must wait a little bit longer, Mr. McCall.
It seems to be that way, Mr. Boasting. Care to grab a drink?
I'd love to, Mr. McCall. After you.
After you. After you. This is a small party. I expected a more varied crowd, didn't you? I guess I never thought about it. But maybe more people will arrive. The night's young. Select a key topic and gossip with guests. Level up the topic or learn new ones. Okay, so what all can we do? Talk about the Seymour family and their recent history, including status and location. Talk about the newest mechanical creation of the estate, says Professor Chatters. Oh, you can get wines. The Seymour house, I'm all too familiar. It's a rather lesser house. That odd man with the glasses is the youngest member. I'm going through a whole range. The glasses is the youngest member, if I'm not horribly mistaken, but I'd rather not talk about that lineage tonight. Seymour house, Seymour house. Seems I should know more about it, but I'm drawing a blank. Yes, the Seymour house. Unimportant by the standards of the last few years, but not without interesting details. I'm positive Mrs. Prattle would have something to say about the former head of house, but I doubt she'd talk about it here. Maybe once the night progresses, the wine will loosen her tongue. There's not much to talk about, really. My mother was the head of the house, and now it's me. I couldn't possibly guess what the professor brought us here for. Maybe we should ask around. I'm quite excited to see what the immaculate Professor Chatters has in store for us. Hey. The professor's invention is as much a mystery to me as it is to you. Honestly, though, I expected there to be much more to the summer house estate than your average party would have. Knowing what little I know of the professor's reputation, I expected the estate to be stacked to the brim with scientific equipment. This is the first time I've been to see the professor, and in fact, I'm not sure anyone here has met him in person. All I really know about him is that he's wildly inventive inventor. Luckily for us, his crazy devices aren't cluttering this fine lounge area. Yo. Good evening, Mrs. Gossip. Good evening, Mr. McCall. I see you and Mr. Boasting are settling in well. Yes, we have a sort of history. He's a master conversationalist, I find. Verbally sparring with him works to my advantage. It allows me to keep up, I know. But one day I hope to have as much social experience under my belt as he does. That's a rather simple aspiration. But I've had no lack of aspirations thus far in life. Big or small, complex or simple, I have room for all of them. What do you say to a friendly sparring? A verbal sparring, that is. What's your opinion on professional boxing? This sounds like a weighted conversation. Excuse me if I'm cautious. It's an expertise of mine, certainly, although a new viewpoint is always welcomed. Then, if you must know, I think very little of it. You jest! St. Laudon was founded on the principles of diplomacy, strength in words, not arms. That's a modern fallacy compared to the origins of humanity, or even Europe as a whole. We fought and struggled long before words existed. Boxing is an homage to our heritage. It harkens back to our origins, pitting one being against the other in close quarters. So much time and effort is placed into destroying another person, not just body, but pride and reputation. And you think that because the activity is physical, it's somehow less than, say, a highly regarded debate at a university. Primal brutality can hardly compare to philosophical discussion. Allow me to assert the opposite. Well, he starts with some stats. Take my squares attack. Ouch, I've been punched. I don't want to do that then. Circle beats star. Ouch. Star beats square. Lips!
Yo. Yo.
Enhances elegant smirk. 5, 10, or 15 extra attack is gained when landing on the center peg. Oh, that's interesting. Circle beats star. Let's get some point pegs back. Star beats square. Ouch. Square beats that. Well, he's over the edge. He's gonna burst. Beyond return. Okay, so there's nothing beyond that. But I'll probably die on this next turn. No. He's charging up. Oh, I might just make it. Oh, we've done it. Looks like I kind of figured this game out. Also, the AI is, like, merciful. I learned +1 bow. Now that that's settled, I'd like you to empty your pockets. Give me your lunch money, you little puke!
Hey.
I would say that you're the first person interested in emptying my pockets, but my former manager is currently vacationing in Majorca. I'm not interested in your money, but I'm not a train robber, but I will take that bow. That's all, go right ahead. I bought a much better tie to wear. I put this to good use. I have no doubt. What, do you just want to collect everyone's bows? Chatter history. Talk primarily about Professor Chatters and the history of the Chatters house. It's still locked. The professor has a rich and fine history of gentlemanry. At least so I hear. He's rather reclusive. But he's quite brilliant. They say his inventions have been used in the front lines of this blasted war.
Yo.
The professor's invention is as much a mystery to me as it is to you. However, Mr. Boasting here claims that the invention is without doubt a military device. I insist. No, you! I insist. No, you! So you've heard that the professor makes military devices. Interesting. Actually, now that I think on it, I remember my mother saying that Professor Chatters used to be a linguist for the military. Chatter. So this is what a party is like. You're not familiar with parties? Not really. I don't host any, and the Seymours haven't really been invited to any since I became the master of Seymour House. Excuse me. Interesting. I suppose it explains why you're so shaky right now. Possibly, although I'm always a bit shaky. You know what? All the pun names, all the, speechcraft related names. I was wondering to myself, what does this remind me of? It reminds me of Professor Layton, where everything is a pun. Everything is sort of outwardly child-friendly, but inwardly a little sinister. I'm a little tired, but I'm ready if you are. Give me your bow tie! Don't confuse my intense fear with a lack of enthusiasm. I am the master of Seymour House, after all. In title, certainly, but you sound more like the servant of Seymour House. Seymour, I thought we were engaging in discourse. You can't give up prematurely. Try it again. I get it. Then what I meant to say was, I disagree! Respectfully. Start with overt. And follow up with common. How's the weather? Oops, excuse me. Now he's frustrated. Now I'm frustrated. Build up lots of tact. I would agree, it's very Professor Layton in the names and the way they talk at times, too. Everyone is an archetype rather than a character, except for maybe the main character. Who, from what I can tell so far, is just a bow tie elemental. Build up that anger. Square. Use your squares attack. Now to really set him off the deep end. A subtle insult. And a squares attack. And he's done so. I hate to do this to you, but it has to be done. What do you think I should get for my trophy? Yeah. Well, you look spiffy in that bow tie. I agree, but that I would like more than a compliment. Yes, what I mean is that I happen to have one you should take. It's handy if nothing else. Very thoughtful, Seymour. I think I'll take it. Now keep practicing. You have some shaping up to do. I'll accept that challenge. Nothing but flavor text here. That's a good one. It gives me a giggle. This is an awkward statue. It's a stone mouth that says Seymour House at the bottom. Well, we don't know about that. A lot of these books are historical. The Fall of the House of Gossip. I don't see what I could gain from reading such blather. The small section of books deals primarily with military history. And I don't know about that, Garbo. I know very little about Chet Cheddars himself. What I do know is that he's, well, I'll be more willing to talk about this after I've had a few drinks, I think. Sorry, I need to get wasted first. After I'm passed out on the floor, come talk to me. Professor Chatters was a linguist? What a marvel. My husband is a linguist, too. I wonder if it's possible that the professor's newest invention has to do with linguistics. Oh dear, my wrists are sweating at the thought. Oh yeah, speaking of her wrists, her fucking pin needle wrists, not a single bone in there. Just a dowel rod, and a thin one at that. Actually, I think I may have heard about such a project in the news. Was it Professor Chatters who was working on communication technology? Can you imagine how the war would turn in our favor if our dear linguists had better gear? This has gone from drab to exciting. Please wait patiently while the incredible professor finishes up his work. It seems a bit rude that he shouldn't be out here to greet us himself, or that he shouldn't have his invention already prepared. If you knew what sort of device he has been working on, I'm sure you would eat your words. I never eat my words. From what I've gathered, they're junk food. From what I've gathered, Professor Chatters was in the military. He specialized in linguistics. Furthermore, his inventions have been useful to the armed forces for some time. If I'm not mistaken, it seems the professor has brought us here to showcase another such device, a creation using the powers of speech. I like the implication that there is a war being fought literally with words, like people shouting at each other on the battlefield. No, you hurt my feelings, and then, do you die? I'm sure you feel quite brilliant, but any clod with a misshapen cranium could have discovered as much simply by reading the public journals. Your lack of tact is striking. Quite so, but words are often striking, are they not? It's how we gather power among our peers. I demand you allow me to see the professor. No! You're a servant. You must allow me to converse with the host. It's your duty. War of the Words, yeah. Is that so? You still hold that servants are unable to hold discourse. They must remain powerless? Certainly, that's the way it is. Do I feel I disagree? Allow me to disagree. Well, he's level 5. Okay, another one just for the emotional damage. Circle. That's the big one. Square's beaten by diamond. That's a little dangerous. Oh. Okay. Alright, it's time to start moving this. Circle's beaten by square. Well, actually... And that's a win. Yeah, take that, Banter. You're a nerd. Ha! Got him! Yeah, and when you win, you gotta say, got him! Well, I believe I've made my point pretty clear. Now, would you kindly introduce us to the professor already? Servant. As you wish. I'm gonna say that in an awful different way every time. I hope I don't run out. So what's taking him so long? I just had a discussion with a latecomer, General Sandoff, intriguing woman. I think I'm beginning to understand the more complex nature of what Mother did. Did you get the last word? Did you? Did you win? How much experience did you get? Did you take her bow tie? Absolutely not. She ordered me to do 20 push-ups afterwards. I suppose we all have our weak moments. Doubly so here. Seeing this environment and that servant is making my head spin. Speaking of which, that servant is highly peculiar. I always have the roughest time saying peculiar. 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 I'm beginning to have weird feelings about this invention. The professor would like to thank you all from the bottom of his heart for waiting as you patiently have. And for those of you who have been rather impatient, well, I suppose you should be thanked as well. Where's the professor? Where's the professor? And where's this marvelous invention of his? You see, over the last few years, the professor has been contracting his inventions out to the St. Lauden's Armed Forces. He himself was a colonel in the forces many years back, and he's never lost his depths of patriotism. However, his designs are fragile things. They cannot be shown to just anyone. They must be carefully tested. You mean to say? It's my turn to speak, General. Let's not lose our manners in the face of excitement. Spare us the rigmarole. Get on with it. Fine. Let us get directly to what you all came here to see. May I present you... Oh, God. You're welcome, all. I've gathered you here to show you off my latest creation. I lovingly call it the mouth. So we're going to feed it the wine, and then we're going to feed it the blood, and then we're going to make fake blood, and then we're going to put poison in the fake blood to make it vomit all the blood and a tooth. Lips! Besides being awe-inducing and beautiful to gaze upon, the mouth is, as you can plainly see, a unique communication device. It's a bit odd. You may be saying to yourself that it seems a bit odd, and to that I scoff heartily. Scoff! You see, through a mixture of linguistic genius and electromechanical engineering, I've created a machine that can engage in discourse. First, machines learn to play tic-tac-toe perfectly, and then they beat everyone at checkers, and then at chess, and then at Go, and now at debate. It has all the nuanced persuasion of any human, the charisma of a politician, the subtlety of an actor, the guilt of parental in-laws. And all this and more controlled by me and without filter. So you see. Ow. None of you should leave until you've enjoyed my vintage wines. You simply must give them their due. And with that, I wish you all a good evening. I do say, these wines look marvelous, but I can't take away the host's honor of the very first glass. After you. My dear sir, she said after you. Dear heavens, he can't hear us. He's gotten the last word in. It's a one-way intercom of sorts. As opposed to all the two-way intercoms. I've seen these before, in the trenches. Highly advanced technology, albeit only prototypes. Marvels beyond convention. That's mad genius. Now we can't leave until we've sampled all of his wines. Brilliant. Simply brilliant. A weapon to surpass Metal Gear. Earplugs! Yeah. Well, you heard the fellow, Mr. McCall. Let me pour you a glass of this Ambleton. Of course, after you. After you. After you. Not so fast, servant. I demand that you tell the professor that we are not his lab animals. This experiment must be shut down immediately. General, I appreciate your service, but I cannot tolerate your tone. It hurts my sensitive ears. This is no joke. I won't have the professor rendering us speechless like we're the enemy, perhaps. Well, I assure you, General, that you're not the enemy, and this device is hardly for our enemies. Now do as the professor commanded. I'm sure he'll have more to say as the evening progresses. Why are we in the washroom?
Hey.
Isn't it obvious? I don't want to be anywhere near that mouth thing. There's no way it can hear us in here. You can't hear us at all, Seymour. What are we going to do? Unfortunately, we don't have many options. I plan to enjoy the wine and mingle. You? This talking thing is rough. How was I not aware of how the world works for so long? In the richer houses, it's not that uncommon, Seymour boasting prattle. They've all been guilty of sheltering their children. What about the gossip house? Gossip house is now defunct. You could probably stand to do some research on the other houses. Your ignorance is tactless. You pointing out my tactlessness is tactless. Have you ever considered my feelings on the matter? Yeah, I know. I need to grow up. I'm a pretty bad master of Seymour House. But I'll figure it out. I'll feel like I'm growing with every bit of discourse, and I'm learning a few tricks. I think I've leveled up and maybe learned a skill or two. Don't make this an emotional moment, Seymour. I shouldn't have to keep reminding you that we've just met. Plus, we're in a washroom. Sorry, I'm still in the process of hardening up. This mouth thing is messing with my head. I'm finally learning the ropes, and now I'm stopped in my tracks by some wild invention. We'll just have to keep our heads up and our wits about us. Try not to worry so much. I'll try. Can I talk to the toilet? I can! What in the world? Unknown! Alright, well, let's, talk to Sandalph about everything. The history of the Chatters family is hardly relevant in the face of this conundrum. The current head of the Seymour house is at this party. He's the sullen, limp young man with the dark glasses and the feeble body strength. The armed forces has been relying on Professor Chet Cheddar since he became a colonel at a young age. Some of his inventions have been small but incredibly useful, so much so that he's still being paid as an honorary active colonel. She's level 11, huh? That's a bit too high. He may be able to talk himself out of a civil dispute, but the war outside of St. Lauden is far from civil. But forget I mentioned it. This is hardly a joke. I cannot believe the professor would use war prototypes against us. This experiment is disturbing. The fact that he's practicing on civilians goes against the military spirit. I don't know how he managed to get a machine to hold such power over us, but it must be stopped before someone gets mildly perturbed. Although I must admit that it's proving to have marvelous potential for... never mind. Ha! Gotcha! This thing has tremendous powers, even if it does look like garbage. That gave me an XP point. An experience point. It's level 8 now. I'm glad you're here, Miss Gossip. It's a pleasure to see a photographer at a party. The boasting house has had a long history of service, but the McCalls are less inclined. Not to say that we aren't patriotic, but we're cautious. That's why it was such a surprise when my sister and I became boxers. Not as respectable as the armed forces, but still respectable, I say. I need level 4 St. Lauden's history for that. I'm only long selection of fables on this shelf. A lot of repeats. No need to go searching through them all. That's still unknown. That's still unknown. Probably need to learn about the wines. Learn skills. Oh. Buy skills will store XP. Spend stored experience dollars to learn skills. Read the information before spending. There are no refunds. Skills will not work unless they are equipped. Equip them in the main menu. Start each discourse with 10 extra tact and 10 extra power. Start each discourse with 10 extra power. Can be upgraded. Blinking is a sign of weakness. Start each discourse with 10 extra tact. Can be upgraded. Gain 5, 10, or 15 bonus power when landing the conversation cursor on the reddish pegs. Cover composure when using submissive phrasers unless your tones will match. Ah! I accidentally made it very loud in my headphones. XP at the end of discourse. Start discourse as if one level stronger. Losing conversation once per discourse. So I'll take common courtesy. There we go. You are currently involved directly in my unhappiness, but I shall be the better person and conceal this information from you. If you have enough stored experience, I am obligated to teach you a few of the more advanced skills I've seen over the years. I realize that you're eager to take advantage of a servant by engaging him in discourse and putting his job on the line, and I respect that. But our previous discourse was one small, rare, non-repeatable event. Never stop feeling bad for spoiling a servant's pride. Okay, let's pick a fight I can't win. Mrs. Prattle is getting worked up over the obligations the professor set upon us. I may be able to light her fuse if I can gather the right information. If she gets angry enough, maybe her passion will disrupt the scene. I can't believe the professor has the gall to experiment on his guests. Has he no honor? It is rather surprising. I'd expect a former colonel to at least have some ethical code. I wouldn't. I'm beginning to think all these talks of his good deeds are simply rumors to aid his reputation. So I need to learn about his reputation.
Yo. Yo.
I know you must think of me as a brute because of my boxing career, but I'm quite the quick reader. That's a classic McCall trait. I haven't even come close to the depths of the professor's written collection yet, but I can tell you that there's very little on machines. There's some interesting philosophical works regarding the 4 elements of discourse, but nothing scientific or quantifiable. The prototypes we've tested before this haven't had anywhere near this effect. How does Chatters manage? It must have something to do with that 4th appeal gibber she reported on last spring. It had us all scratching our heads. In any case, his methods are effective. I hope the mouth can adapt to radio technology. How young ones can flutter about trying to solve how the professor's contraption functions, but I just don't have the energy. I left the railroad to take me where it pleases, as they say. I don't need to know how locomotives do what they do, just that they do it. Ho ho, that professor sure has pulled a fast one on us, but I can't complain about his wine selection. There are much worse ways to spend an evening. You know what, let's get absolutely blasted by boasting. How daring! I'm afraid I'm leagues ahead of you. You'd stand absolutely no chance. Don't make the same mistakes as Mr. McCall. Come see me later tonight, if we're still here. No, won't even let me try. Right. As angered as I am by the professor's recent behavior, I cannot condemn an honorary colonel. Ho ho! A person who hasn't served in the armed forces doesn't deserve to live in St. Lauden. Even I spent my fair time in the service as a colonel. No colonel was as courageous as I was. We lost many good men. Oh. Seymour. Does the cat want to talk to me? Meow. Kitty, what's your name? Your collar says your name is Harper. Cats. What a cute old gal you are. Meow. There's a local who's who tucked in here. A lampshade doll. No one knows who made these things. They were gifted to thousands of doorsteps once the war started. That's creepy. Come back here.
Hey.
Hey. That cat is cute, but she's a little standoffish. But what cat isn't?
Hey.
I'm just remembering who that servant is. I thought he looked familiar. Well, I've talked to everyone about the Seymour house.
Hey.
Professor Chatters is still an honorary colonel. I guess it's no surprise. He was loved well in the military. Do you know Mrs. Prattle's son, Private Prattle? Well, the former private, really. Good riddance. He looked up to the professor like a mentor.
Huh.
Mrs. Prattle's son was younger than I am, but he joined the military in traditional Prattle fashion. Not a surprise, it runs in their family. This machine the professor uses. How did that help with war? Surely you can't engage in discourse with an enemy.
Hey.
I still don't understand how a machine with a mouth can make us do its bidding. Is there some form of hypnotism involved? Maybe some of the professor's literature will help me wrap my head around it. There must be something here. Unknown. Everyone, let's talk about the cat. And everything else.
I never knew Private Prattle personally, but Mr. McCall is about his age.
I wouldn't doubt they frequent some of the same circles.
Ah, yes, that gorgeous white-haired cat truly lives up to this old estate. Oh ho! Rumor has it you can upgrade your bows if you talk to her, but honestly, that makes no sense. Blasted rumors.
Upgrade. Earn bows by leveling up or purchasing them here. Purchase skills from the servant. On the key topic, wine tasting. Yum. This topic can be upgraded to max. Allows Witty to sample and collect wines from around the estate. A light boosting charisma that inspires Steamore to break beyond level 4. On the key topic, photography. Only the first level is available. Allow Switty to access optional information from around this estate. Sure.
You should have considered becoming a military photographer. We'd send you around the world. So you work for Mussenbo, the bottling company. Very interesting. They should really upgrade to wine bottles. Do you take pictures they use for advertisements? Labels? The balls in the meeting room? Sunday picnics? Why?
I like photography, but photographers are more important. Cameras and pictures aren't animate, but people are. I could interact with a photographer. I am right now, actually. And that's much more relevant to me than the pictures taken. I always prefer the artist to the art.
Hey.
Level 1 photography. You know I'm a photographer? Of course, you get in the habit of memorizing the faces of photographers when you become a boxer. Pictures are taken every match. I only came to one of your matches. Years ago, back before I broke my hand. Yes, I saw you there, though. I didn't know your name, of course, but like I said, I learned to memorize. Why is that? A photographer can display you however they like. News journals, posters, you name it. They can be allies or enemies. I find that it's safe to know who you're up against, inside and outside of the ring. Hooray.
Yo.
Mrs. Prattle's son? I know him. We both sort of grew up together. The McCalls and the Prattles have been pretty close for a few decades. He has a fairly scandalous history, though. He went AWOL. Moreover, he left to run off with a rather rich older lady. You might know of her. Mrs. Seymour, of the Seymour house.
Ah.
Private Prattle always had a taste for, I guess you could call it, aged wine.
Prattle's absence was a mild blow to the reputation of the armed forces, at least in the eyes of the public. They say Private Prattle ran off with Mrs. Seymour, but more importantly, he left the forces to do so. Chasing a woman into the wild wilderness is a true goal of every young man, but only a coward drops his rank and flees his duty.
Talk to me about the cat.
Yee.
The cat. She's quite cute, although I'm more of a dog person.
Yo.
The professor is an honorary colonel, eh? We McCalls were never active servicemen. Maybe one or here or there, but not many. Alright, time to talk to you about your mom. After I talk to you about my photography. I found an envelope with a bunch of photographs inside. I was going to show you, but I lost them on the way to the washroom. But don't worry, they couldn't have gotten far. Maybe the other guests found a few. So, you've heard. It's rather embarrassing. Mother ran off with the Prattle heir, and he's younger than me. Not only that, but she took most of the house's finances and left me in charge. Me, of all people. I've been useless for years. Needless to say, the house has been dipping into obscurity for some time now. Yeah. Comparing a woman to aged wine. Well, everyone's got to be coy in this game, and being coy is often overlaps with being a douchebag. But now I have the level 2 Seymour house. You know him. He's a rather poor servant as far as servants go. He barely respects the servant's code. That's what they call it. I'm pretty sure he tended to me when I was younger. Maybe back around 6 years ago and earlier. I don't really remember too well. I was a bit pampered and it never occurred to me that servants had... names? Faces. I have a problem with not looking people in the eye when I talk to them. I've gotten better now that I'm the master of Seymour House, but it's tough. I've always been a bit more introverted. These social interactions can be taxing. Mother didn't help by keeping me constantly sheltered from public appearances, and being as spoiled as I was, I barely noticed servants. Yet you recognize this one. It's hard not to. He has a fairly distinct attitude, and I think I recall his voice more than anything. We'll have to keep our heads up and our wits about us. Try not to worry so much. I'll try. I got some experience dollars. The Seymour house has been practically dissolved into obscurity at this point. It's not my favorite topic. If Mother hadn't taken all of our money and left with that damn private prattle, we might still be squeaking by somehow, possibly.
I had no idea that the head of the Seymour house eloped with Private Prattle. All that matters is that Private Prattle was a disappointment. To leave your patriotic duty in the name of love and dreams is a military sin. I can't respect it. Seymour's a right mess when it comes to handling the Seymour house, but he doesn't have much of a choice, But if you think Mr. Seymour stole the family funds to run off with the Prattle boy, you're mistaken. The Seymour house was bankrupt. The truth of the matter is that she agreed to sell the estate to Professor Chatters to get the money they needed to elope.
That seems more like Seymour House than Chatters history, but okay.
This mansion is, in fact, the old Seymour estate. You can't trick an old gentleman like me. I've been here 1,000,000 times over the years. You're no better than these aristocrats. I'm too preoccupied to engage in discourse just because it suits your fancy. If you're desperate for attention, prove it. Address me when you have more experience. It's no secret that the professor was an inspiration to many of the troops, but mostly to the ones with lesser minds, shall we say. His professorly liberal thinking was easy for the mindless followers to indeed follow, and some even left their rank due to his manipulation. Private Prattle, who is an endless source of this type of meaningless gossip, was one such person. He was led by Colonel Chatters personally. More than one person left the forces after being influenced by the professor's liberal attitude. His mentality was viral. If Chatters wasn't so useful, we might have dismissed him. Prattle would still be in the armed forces then, for whatever that's worth. The fact that Private Prattle left the military to pursue his childish dreams is downright absurd. Knowing that Chatters was in some way responsible for this is even more disappointing. Damn his charming smile.
Private Prattle always looked up to his superiors in the military. It's no surprise that a great inventor inspired him to go after his dreams.
Private Prattle and Professor Chatters were awfully close, they say. Before he went AWOL, he and the professor mingled quite a bit.
I keep bumping the volume knob on my headphones and it's making the music really loud. Can we talk about this later? Maybe after I finish this next class. That does count as having talked about it, though. I hate that Chatters bought the estate, but I suppose someone would have. It's a weird experience being back. Okay, I've talked to him about everything.
Oh, that professor. He's made a fine purchase in buying the Seymour estate. The servants leave a bit to be desired, though. I've heard that Chatters gives free rein to his servants when guests aren't making appearances. I've also heard that this servant is the only one the professor still employs. That explains why it's so calm in here.
Do I have what I need to talk to you yet? Level 3 private prattle. I got it!
I can't believe the professor has the gall to experiment on his guests. Has he no honor?
Blah blah blah. Ethical code. Private prattle. He must have some merits. Your son was quite taken in by his influence, wasn't he?
What could you possibly know of my son?
From what I hear, the professor inspired many people to leave the armed forces. Your son was no exception.
What are you saying?
Don't sound so flustered. Everyone knows that he left the military prematurely to run off with the head of the Seymour house. The sale of this estate enabled them to elope.
Elope? Horrid, absurd, treacherous! You can't possibly believe that my young boy would take place in such a ridiculous scandal. He's still working for our great country, proudly making his father proud.
There's hardly a point to contest. That's the reality of it.
Your assertions are incorrect, you trollop.
Alright, but she's still like 8 levels above me. How am I supposed to level if... I can't even... What, grind? Am I supposed to grind? Oh, Jesus. Like, it seems it wants me to win this fight, but I don't know if I can. Just keep being subtle. Just being nice and, like, not hitting me with weaknesses. Maxed out her power. I mean, I'm barely oh, that was the wrong one. Whoopsie. Unless she has an enormous amount of tact. Alright, all I can do now is start going hard for the aggressive. I could have almost won that turn, but it would have been one off. Okay, I won while 8 levels down.
Got a bow.
Because the AI isn't, like, actually good at the game, basically. They seem to pick moves essentially randomly. Now that you've stopped investing in your simple delusions, maybe we can work with each other.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a possibility. I don't much care for you, but you're right. My son has disgraced the Prattle name, and it's no use hiding it. Everyone knows. but very few people seem to realize that it's Professor Chatter's fault that he acted out his boyish daydreams. Yes, indeed. That's an angle my husband and I had never fully considered. Isn't it my son's fault he toyed with romantic... It isn't my son's fault he toyed away... It isn't my son's fault he toyed with romantic fantasies. Every young man does it. The blame should be firmly placed on someone else. It's not my fault. Everyone steps up to one cliff edge or another when they're young, but few step off. A superior officer should have provided guidance away from that cliff instead. Shatters pushed, and your son fell, bringing down the prattle name. Could it be that I was invited to this party to play the fool once again? Was taking my son from me not enough for Cheddars? That's possible. We're all currently trapped here by his mechanical manipulation. He could be capable of many devious and petty acts. Yeah. I, for one, have had enough of this absurdity. I'm going to demand to see the professor immediately. And then the servant's like, no. What are you going to do about it? Servant, I require your presence. I'm the only person here of that noble profession, so you must be referring to me. If you don't allow me to see the professor this very minute, I'm going to... To what exactly? You're going to get even more drunk on the great professor's fine wines? I've barely had a few drinks, and yet I can practically smell your breath from across the table. Do us all a favor and enjoy the hospitality you've been shown. This little experiment won't last much longer, I assure you. How dare you walk away from me? What a curious situation. Well, I've had it up to here with all of this. The professor will pay for spoiling the prattle name and trapping me in this little charade. Smash! Let's see how well the professor's marvelous invention withstands an 11-year-aged bottle of watermelon port. Miss Prattle, what in the world are you doing? Violence! I've found that it's very effective. Something I should have done earlier this evening. The professor suggested we enjoy the wine, and I plan to do just that. Yeah. You haven't thought this through. Mr. McCall is absolutely correct. That's a priceless opal carlet in your hand. Surely you meant to grab the Ambleton. No, this bottle is cheaper. Don't waste the good one. Let me drink that. I'll... Please, that's the good shit. Ugh. Dear heavens. That opal carlin barely had a chance to breathe.
Hey.
This truly is a sad day for a good port, Mr. Boasting.
That is an adequate assessment, Mr. McCall. Even as a former serviceman, I can hardly say I've seen something quite so ghastly.
Oh, he's mad. Ladies and gentlemen, I have splendid news. According to my readouts, the mouth has been thoroughly soaked in liquid and glass. That's not the good news, though. The good news is that it still functions flawlessly. This is in no small part due to my tedious preparations, of course. I am a certified genius. And although I am literally quivering with anger, I have to appreciate the fact that my invention was put through this test of passion. You're a monster, Chatters. You've been nothing but a blight on my family. I have given her 100 different voices. I realize some of you might be saying that I am some kind of monster. To that I must reenact my scoff from earlier. Scoff! Now that my throat is... Oh, my throat's not cleared. Now that my throat has been thoroughly cleared, I must make something even clearer. Extra clear. Clearer than my now scoffed throat. All of you should remain here until my research has been fully finished. Do any of you contest? Hey. You can't expect us not to take issue with this. I presume some of you have taken issue with this. Fair enough. And I must confess that none of you have any say in the matter. And that is that.
That blasted professor can't hear us, Mr. McCall. Your silver tongue is of no use.
And I feel quite a fool for attempting to engage in this devilish discourse.
Don't be so hard on yourself, McCall. There's not much we can do in the face of the terrible power he has over us.
Ah, yes, and before I forget, Mrs. Gossip, I require your presence in my study within the next 5 minutes. Me? Yes, you, Mrs. Gossip, although I'm only repeating myself out of childish joy at this point. The mouth is a rather fun contraption. I shall lead you to your evening. Please refrain from harming the mouth any more than you already have.
That dirty scoundrel! What in the... Oh, it... I'm not sure what I'm looking at. You summoned me? For someone who practically assaulted a servant trying to get in here earlier, you're awfully calm. I don't much like being persuaded into your study by that mouth. Excuse me if I'm a bit tired. You're a photographer, correct? I am, the head photographer at Messenbow. What does a bottling company need with a photographer? Everyone needs a photographer, Mr. Chatters. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and you know how important words can be. More than anyone, perhaps. The real question is, why do you invite me to this gathering without knowing my profession or place of work? That's not a matter of importance, yet. For now, we have business. Business? I have plenty more questions. Why have you called us here? Why us? How does the mouth work? Why can't we leave? There's an ancient story of a man who held the power of words in his hand. Quite literally, the word was engraved on a stone, and he beat people over the head with it. The hidden word was noodle. When he spoke the word aloud, people would simply collapse. Furthermore, he was immune to all forms of discourse. No matter the outcome of a conversation, he would walk away unscathed, completely in control. You ignore my questions. You must let me finish, Miss Gossip. Even without my machine, I am much more skilled than you are. You stand no chance. In the legends, it was thought that the stone held the power, and that the word activated that power, but I believe otherwise. So, in some interpretations, the Philosopher's Stone, right, converts words into power. You speak words and the stone makes them reality. So that's what this is almost certainly going on about. I believe that the word, written on any object, can be wielded as mightily as any sword. To hold it is to know it and use it. Why would the renowned man of science invest in such a fairy tale? What good is magic to a professor? Magic has a place in the world. Magic is simply a term for science we do not yet understand. By saying the word, you can make people fall down. Have you tried a gun? The word is bang, and it's very effective. Mrs. Seymour was a strong woman. She had most of the other houses under her control. My inside sources say that she showed signs of having the word. No need to get into details, but everyone knows she was quite powerful, invincible. That is, until I convinced Private Prattle to seduce her and leave the country. If this word existed, she surely took it with her. Not necessarily. There's hardly a reason to hold on to objects, and the passions of nighttime tryst. Once fully disrobed, Prattle convinced her to leave. The small details of the situation are hard to explain. In fact, actually it's very easy to explain. I just don't want to because it's icky. But I assure you that there's no chance she took the object with her. William made sure of it. William? The remainder of the guests have calmed down for now, Professor. The mouth has upset them, but they show no signs of leaving. Excellent work, William. I was just informing Miss Gossip about my master plan. I hope you left some details to her vivid imagination. Not many. I like to be fairly thorough when divulging secret conspiracies to semi-strange guests. So you used Mrs. Seymour's servant to ensure that she fled the estate without any of her personal belongings. Little good it did. She apparently hid the word away before attending to Private Prattle's private prattling. And this is where you come in, Miss Gossip. You are a fresh set of eyes and ears. You are quite persuasive to boot. I don't know, I'm only like level 5. Your powers of suggestion have pitted Mrs. Prattle against us. That's a new mess we need to clean. More importantly, you get along well with Seymour Seymour, heir to the Seymour house. He must have some information. Why not question him yourself? Why not use the mouth? We will if we have to, but for now it's best not to apply too much pressure, and using the mouth would inform everyone of our plan. As stupid as this plan sounds, what makes you think I'll go along with it? You refuse? I'm not daft, of course I refuse.
Allow me to persuade you, then. Oh no! He's level 40! Oh no, I've been persuaded! You were no match. Turns out you're a much better listener than you thought, eh? Now here's the deal. You're going to wean as much information about the word as possible from young Master Seymour. The word is please! Without letting on too much about our plan. Once you've discovered information we might find of use, you're to report to William. Calling me sir is an option, but not a demand. I also prefer pet names like Your Highness and Mr. Superior. Go with whatever feels right. Is this perfectly clear? I'll be done before you know it. A fate worse than mild inconvenience. Let's get that wine tasting skill. Immune to discourse. What did this do again? Oh, yeah. Now she's level 16.
I may have stumbled upon an old-fashioned toilet wine in the washroom. Say what you will, but ingenuity outweighs flavor.
Ew.
What exactly did the professor have to talk about in their gossip? Don't you think you should share it with us?
Not without level 2 photography, I won't.
We postings are amazing wine connoisseurs. If you ever stop by the estate, prepare to see the largest wine cellar of all the houses. Oh ho!
Pour myself a glass of... Ambleton wines get a bad reputation among the aristocrats, but it's a perfectly decent wine in the rest of society. Oh, that's a lot of experience. Yeah, that's definitely worth it. Let's see what levels are needed in here. Level 2. Level 4. Level 1! They even have a jade. It's not often you find wines from St. Remy. I figured it's too small to export very much.
Truth be told, I enjoy a honeydew wine. Of all the melon wines, honeydew has the most crisp flavor. Acted quite the fool back there.
I'll say more when I know more about Private Prattle. Servants and soldiers aren't that different, you know. Yeah, I can't fight with him again. And now I can have some eye contact. There we go. I forgot what button it was. I find it interesting that I could move a conversation forward by being slightly disruptive. It's such a nuanced effect. Indeed, but the real purpose of being disruptive is to gain power. If you can jar a person with something overtly disruptive, you get a lot out of it.
Hey.
I wonder how the professor is able to accomplish these intricacies with metal and rubber. Do the hands help? They might. I think having human features is part of what makes the machine effective, although I can't be sure. I'm no inventor. I think it's because it's gross! Yes. And if you notice, the features that the mouth lacks are all receptive features. No ears, no eyes.
Huh.
So he's still, yeah, he's still level 1. I assume I won't get much experience from this. Star beats square. Square beats circle. Star beats square. I mean, 6 experience isn't nothing.
Hey.
Have any good gossip for me? Let me think. You know, Mr. McCall might be better suited for this than I am. He's got a way with words. Have another spar with him.
Hey.
He's level 17 now. Dude's been power leveling. How's your evening coming along? I'm doing well enough. How are you faring? I'm not sure how to explain it. I need level 2 wine tasting before I understand my own feelings about the matter. That's right, I recall fairly vividly now. Private Prattle always admired older women. Running off with Mrs. Seymour was a classic move. I can't really blame the fellow. Mrs. Seymour was quite the sight. Gross. This is an awkward statue. It's a stone mouth that says Seymour House at the bottom. But I need level 2 hidden word before I can do anything about it. I drink wine, but I don't really have a palate for it. I'm more for the taste of hot cocoa. I remember when I first heard about Prattle. Mother hadn't been home for dinner 3 nights in a row. My cousins were gossiping about it. They said she had spent too much time watching young men's boxing and finally brought one home. Well, Prattle wasn't a boxer, so they weren't correct, but watching matches became their shared hobby. I was never properly introduced. It occurred to me what this game basically is. This game is the section of RPGs that everyone hates second most after, like, force stealth or follow the NPC sort of things. And that's talk to everyone on the boat parts of the game. Very often in RPGs of the sword and sorcery type, you'll be on a boat, and you can't just ask the player to wait a week, you know, wait an amount of time for the boat to show up, unless you're King's Quest, then you can do it. So you have to have some sort of plot flag that moves the plot forward, something that the player does that makes the boat, you know, arrive at the next port. And almost always, well, how do we combine this? We want to make sure that the player doesn't miss any dialogue if they're interested in it, right? So if you talk to someone and that makes the plot move forward, well, then you'd miss it. So what's the solution? You talk to everyone on the boat. And once you've talked to everyone on the boat, then you won't miss anyone. And now the boat can arrive. And it sucks! Because every time they do this, without fail, so there's like an NPC hiding. And you walk through the boat like 5 times and can't find them, and the game won't progress. And then you finally find that person, and it's like, oh, well, you're here, hooray! Oh, it's annoying. My son, and you have no idea how disappointed I am, and that Professor Chatters, it sickens me to think that the man is keeping us trapped in here is the same one responsible for soiling the Prattle name. Level 2 wine tasting, okay.
And you want level 2 wine tasting, right? Yeah. Well, I think I have enough. Oh, no, I just spent all my XP dollars. And you want photography. Alright, let's just go talk with Red for a while. Because, like, everything I have is missing something from her. The Prattles are well-featured military servers. My husband is a colonel and my son, well, he was a private for a short time. At first I thought this machine was a blessing, but if my husband were here, I'm certain he would disapprove. For starters, look at that horrifying smile. The thing is just plain ugly. Ugh, and it clashes with the rug. I agree. You're the photographer, yes? That's what you call your profession? It looks as though this picture might be indicating something. I'm not one of those cryptic old cryptologists, though. Take a look and tell me if you see anything a tad off. And if you find anything concerning my son, I'd be especially appreciative. Oh! I see it. Do you see it? Input 527, huh? There's a small number dial here within the linoleum. Let me see if I can spin the numbers into the correct position. The panel moved, but there's nothing but a small phrase. 2 turn right. I'll try to remember it. It certainly gave me a lot of experience. And now I can get better wine tasting from the cat. Cat, teach me to appreciate the grapes. What did this do again? Upgrades eye contact. Conversation moves forward 1 peg whenever power is added to your full power gauge. It requires level 3 Seymour House. Private Prattle wasn't the only soldier acting strange after dealing with the professor. Others have gone AWOL too, and there have certainly been unprofessional behaviors. We used to make toilet wine in the barracks. It's sort of a tradition in the military. You should have considered becoming a military photographer. We'd send you around the world. Talk about the cat. I happen to love cats. Every soldier has their vice gossip. You're looking for something Mr. Seymour owned. An odd question. I have no interest in that. I can get the level 2 wine. Also... Origin, St. Laudon. Type, white, made from canary melon. France, jade, made from honeydew. You got it. Learn Witty special skill. This is a Harvingdale. Not too bad. I wonder if I can bring it out to the table. 15 experience, basically already paid for itself. That takes level 4. Let me out! Let me out! I happen to have level 2 wine tasting. What is it you need? This is about wine, isn't it? Of course. What else could it be? Mrs. Prattle can fly off the handle and throw anything she likes, but spare the poor innocent wine.
That Opal Carlin was by far the best bottle on the estate, and I was looking forward to pouring a glass and sitting by the fire with Mr. McCall. Now we'll have to settle for a snow wine, or some other blanc. Don't get me wrong, they're all delightful, but still. Mrs. Seymour owned quite a few things, but my eyes have been going bad for years. Everyone is a blur, like a colored silhouette. But I do say, Mr. McCall is young yet. His eyes and mind are as sharp as claws. Oh-ho! So you work for Messenbow, the bottling company. Very interesting. They could really upgrade to wine bottles. Do you take the pictures they use for advertising? I've already seen this. We Boastings are amazing wine connoisseurs. If you ever stop by the estate, prepare to see the largest wine cellar of the houses. Oh! Private Prattle and Professor Chatters were awfully close before they mingled quite a bit. Yeah, I've already seen that. The wine is superb. Maybe I've had too much, but I don't care. Photography truly is a lost art, although I'd never suggest it to a member of a fine house. Members of the middle class are better suited. Ugh, Seymour House. You won't find any genuine affection from me, although I'm more than civil enough to be civil. I've had some discussions with the new master, and despite being dull, he's a nice enough boy, much unlike his cruel and petty parents. I feel like I should be able to use the stored experience to, like, level up, but I suppose it is just money. I'm simply uninterested in domesticated animals. No offense to pet lovers, but I'm more of a people person than a cat person. They're saying that this estate was sold to the wealthy professor by Mrs. Seymour. Chaff said that the Seymour house was bankrupt, which is why Mrs. Seymour needed the money. But do you believe that? Master Seymour may not be doing so well as the head of Seymour House, but I believe he's living off this estate sale. It would make more sense that the money Chatters used to buy this estate is now what keeps the Seymour House from going defunct. That would mean the professor is in some way responsible for keeping the Seymours above water. That's just my personal theory, however. I can be rather smart when pressed. Not smart enough to give me a new topic. You want to know if Mrs. Seymour had any particular objects he held close? That's a rather odd topic. Oh, he's level 2 now. He's learning some new tricks. I think I'm literally supposed to grind him. I get that they wanted to put, like, RPG in this RPG that they're calling an RPG, but I don't know about that one. Square attack. Oops. Star beats square. And now I just start being aggressive. I bowl him over. Square. Nailed it. Come on, cheers. Have any good gossip for me? Let me think. McCall is better suited. Yeah, he's leveling up, even if I'm not. Well, basically, one round of overt, disruptive, and then like 2 rounds of submissive hitting weaknesses, if you can anyway. And then a few rounds of aggressive, and he's dead. Square, circle, this one. Nope, whoops, no, the opposite of that. but be subtle about it. Star again. Nailed it. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting levels slowly.
Hey.
Because, like, everyone's, like, level 15 or so, and I'm still sitting here at level 5 before, now 7. And I was like, I think I'm doing something wrong. Circle. So, yeah, I definitely just need to practice with Seymour a whole bunch. And he's giving me more experience every fight, so that's good too.
Hey.
Imagine if you just grinded until you hit like level 40 and then you just beat Chatters. He's like, how about I convince you? And you're like, You just do a Z snap in front of him and he's like, I don't know how to deal with that. That Z snap I did while saying Z snap was the worst Z snap I've ever done. A little better. Or the forbidden technique. The double Z snap that's still terrible. Hit him with the early 2000s. Is that what the kids are doing these days? No, that's what the kids did 15 years ago. Okay, let's see about buying some more upgrades. More wine tasting. More wine tasting. Say, is there anything out here? Level 2 wine tasting. Easy peasy. It's a rose wine. Looks like it came all the way from Brittany, France. Not bad at all. Where's all the other wines? Still needs level 3 Seymour House for that. Level 5 for that. Can I inspect the wine on the ground? Nah, I suppose not. Found another one. Excellent. It's a bottle of Tofau. This is easily my favorite sparkling wine. I guess I should pour myself a glass.
That's the same thing. Oh yeah, the toilet wine. There's a small bottle of homemade wine in the toilet. Disgusting! Yeah, intriguing. 19 experience of intriguing. And the mystery wine over here. It's an Osande snow, made from the Hami Mountains. There's nothing cheap about it. Icky toilet wine. I had a small glass of Harvingdale. Nutty? Not for me. Alright, Seymour. Let's go back at it. I gotta level up.
Hey.
I'm leveling up.
Well, so am I, so you're not catching up to me. Square. It goes in the square hole. And the rectangle. That's right, it goes into the square hole. And the triangle. That's right, it goes into the square hole. And the archway. That's right, it goes into the square hole. I'm getting a little beat up. He's learning. He's learning how to fight. But now he's ready to burst. Okay. Now we kill him. He's over the edge. He's beyond return.
Hey. Hey.
Ah, wine tasting. I enjoy drinking with Mr. Boasting, but I'm not comfortable doing so under these circumstances. Being forced to do something, even if I enjoy the activity in question, saps the joy out of it for me. I guess that's why I became a boxer. What do you mean? My sister and I are twins in the family of paper pushers. McCall House is all about the written word, dotting I's and crossing T's. I love administration, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to enjoy a profession you're forced to practice, much like I said before. So you both became boxers? She had the real passion for it. I picked up on it later, but as you know, we rose into the ranks, and it was nice doing something without fate. When I shattered my hand, my whole life sort of returned to the way it was destined. I work in a courthouse doing paperwork, like expected. It went from being a star in the ring to being a typical McCall. What about your sister? If you keep up on the sport, you'll see that she's still doing wonderful. Amazing woman she is. She's living life for me right now. Grapes are used for wine worldwide, and to be honest, the deep purple wine appeals to me much more than these melon shades. If you agree, just wink. We can't let Mr. Boasting catch on to us. Your whole game is about words, but one of the words is wrong. Private Prattle always looked up to his superiors in the military. It's no surprise that a great inventor inspired him to go after his dreams. Although, what exactly were those dreams? I've known Prattle a while, but he never said he wanted to travel the world. Yet here he is. I have to wonder if he ran off for some other reason, right? That is, other than for a woman. Or am I overthinking this? There's no way to know, I guess. Over the past few years, he hasn't sent so much as a single letter. He made a clean cut. And now I've maxed out Private Prattle.
Eef.
Now that you mention it, I recall bumping into Mrs. Seymour several times and noticing that she always wore the same set of jewelry. As a gentleman, I made point not to expose that I realized she wore the same accessories over and over. I'm trying hard to be proper. However, also as a gentleman, I can't really recall what the accessories were. Classic male problem, eh, Miss Gossip? I think you wanted level 3? No, maybe not. I was rather uncomfortable accepting the ignoble professor's invitation, seeing how this is the estate I grew up on. Gain a new skill. St. Loudon's forces, okay. Yeah, Peace of Mind seems really good. Alright, now the grinding is faster.
Huh.
It is going to take longer now, though, that I don't start with the free power intact. Next is circle. And circle again. And square attack. And circle should take us on. Yeah, like 50% more experience, it looks like.
Huh. Hey.
The leveling system honestly feels pretty unnecessary. Like, have the skills and such that allow you to become stronger, and of course you're naturally going to get better at the game as you go, but, like, having fights gated purely by level? Maybe not. Moving things right along. Or not that much. And now a bunch. Yeah, it's a bit awkward. Well, I don't need to hit weaknesses anymore since he's already beyond return. There. He's putting up a better fight now. He's learning. Heard any good gossip for me? Blah, 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 blah. And we go again. It is funny that he's actually not leveling up every fight. Like, he doesn't just do one for every time you fight him. He has to get the experience and grind. There's probably a special ending if you get him up strong enough that he can beat Chatter. Or something like that. I could see that happening. Getting a little spicy. Not spicy enough. Let's get some upgrades from the cat. Maxed out wine tasting. And I'm level 11, okay. Yeah, I still got a little ways to go. Get that power. Another thing is if your game is like just a couple hours long, like I'm sure this is, you really want to avoid grinding. Grinding is much more noticeable when it's in a short game. Like, having something that you can buy that makes your grinding better is great in a game that's long and has satisfying grind. This doesn't. I'm also, like, not terribly invested in the story. I'm basically just waiting for it to drop that they're talking about the Philosopher's Stone. Oh, he has a new skill. Oh, I can only be disruptive. Alright, because I don't start with anything. Never mind.
And, like, I've still got a long way to go, too. Like, the level cap is apparently around 40, or maybe more, where Chatters is. Excuse me. I have to get more. Gotta get more tact, especially because he's hitting me again. Be subtle, be cool. Be ready to burst. Once you get them beyond return, you can really just hit them with the most basic one over and over again. It only costs 10. And the mood bonuses will be doing most of the heavy lifting.
Hey.
Okay, now I think I can start actually fighting other people. Entertain me. That servant truly rubs me the wrong way. I can certainly agree that he's prickly. The servants at our estate are proper, polite, and smell of plum petals year-round. Good to know, although plum petals may be going a bit far. Not at all. If you can afford it, I recommend that you have your servants wash in fragrant water daily. It helps imprint your dominance. But not plum petals. That's for Prattle House only. Use rose water, or I suppose kelp is more in your price range. I no longer have any servants, not since I was a child. You forget that I am technically the middle class now, Mrs. Prattle.
Yeah.
And a horrid reminder it is, to be in your presence lowers my own standing. Oh, how could you be so vulgar as to bring this up again? I'm no less than you are, even without a title. In fact, you should be ecstatic that someone of my merits is wasting her time on you. You have some serious mental and ethical deficiencies if you think a commoner can compare to a proper lady. And let's see if I can win this fight with the experience booster. That would be a big help. Star beats square. Oh, she really drinking. Square beats. Lots of tact from that one. And I'm one ahead on the mood. She's sure got a lot of points, but it doesn't really matter. Especially because the AI will spend some turns needlessly. And I can just be subtle over and over again. And there. I won while not having good skills. 43 experience. At least you back down gracefully. Yes, well, I am a prattle. We are nothing if not graceful. And a graceful moment deserves to be remembered. Any ideas?
Prattle House deserves to be remembered in any and every capacity. Luckily, I have a souvenir handy that will fit your refined tastes. Very nice. This one is made from good silk. Yes, it belonged to my son. He also wore bow ties and was quite dapper. Only the best for the boy. I'll care for it well. Can be upgraded. When landing the conversation cursor on reddish pegs. I don't know what that means. Doubles the effect of piercing gaze and elegant smirk. Right. Recovers mood. That's really important. There. Let's see how much I need to upgrade with the cat. Gain 5 tact when using the same tone as the opponent. That seems like not good. There. Now I have lots of stuff active. Messenbo, huh? They bottle wine, yes, or just soda pop. I'm not a fan of soft drinks, but it's good to diversify. If you ever bump elbows with the man in charge, should talk to him about brewing his own wine. That's where the money is. Last person to talk about hidden word level 1. You want to know if Mother held on to anything? What a vague question. I can't say I ever paid enough attention. Maybe some of her guests would know better. She hosted the McCalls from time to time. I bet Holden was a bit more vigilant.
Yo.
Nothing to chatter about. Okay. Multi-photography. Not particularly. He mostly wanted to discuss photography. For what purpose? He knows I'm the head photographer at Messenbo and told me that I was invited to take pictures of his invention. I suppose he would need to document his results. That also answers another question that has been rattling around in my head. What's that? I couldn't figure out why someone of the middle class was invited to mingle with these upper crust snobs. There's good training and strong discourse. Can you provide me that? Why have you never joined the forces? I feel I have enough potential in my life. You're clearly implying that the military is for those without potential, and you without a house to fall back on. Gossip House is indeed a former house, and most people in my position would enlist simply to regain some sort of prestige. Yet I haven't, and to reiterate is because I have the potential to garner prestige without the prescribed methods of the military. You do what again? I am the head photographer at the Messenbo Corporation. Ah, yes, you're truly living up to your potential. While my soldiers and I risk our lives for the welfare of our great nation, you take pictures for a company that bottles syrup water. You overestimate your worth and underestimate mine. Let us expand on why you're wrong. I'm starting a couple pegs down. Yep, that does improve my mood. That's a big difference maker. I need to do a little bit of aggressive, like, right away, just to even out the conversation. She also has it. keep my mood good with cheap, submissive answers. It's looking good. Oh, whoops, that was the wrong one. Oh, I'm downright uncivilized. I have 20 tact remaining. Now you have to spend a turn doing something unuseful. I talked my way out. You found a way out. You found a way out. You found a way out. You're a tough opponent, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm right. So now, what do we do? Nothing. Well, other than you handing over your pride. That's a physical impossibility. Your rank? That wouldn't work. Your fashion sensibility. If I give you this bow tie, will you leave me alone? Yeah. Are you satisfied? I'm never satisfied, but for the sake of this conversation, certainly.
Yo.
Oh, verbal sparring. He's deal-withable at this point. Oh, punched. That's no good. Beck just irritated, and he's up to blood boiling, so it's already looking great. I'm pretty close to losing, but that's fine. Because I can start spending points to really hurt him. Stars beaten by Circle. Square is beaten by Star. I hit the wrong thing again. Ah, just enough to beat him this turn. Good. Well, I'd ask you to bow down to me, but I wouldn't want to embarrass your family name. Charming. Still need level 2 hidden word, huh?
I got that one. Looks like this is a rather old edition. The Master of Seymour House isn't listed as Seymour. It says Master Gabriella Seymour. Her husband, Seymour's father, is General Gabe Seymour, so Gabby and Gabe. Good thing I got a respectable name. And that was just lore. Buy more bow ties from the cat. So you say Mrs. Seymour had tacky jewelry. This is about the most meaningless conversation I've ever engaged in. If you want to obsess over knickknacks, do so with Prattle. She seems to be an expert in the trivial. Thinking about what's best for the military, I must concede that the private's departure was negative from military publicity. He, on the other hand, he was hardly a great soldier. He was an aristocrat and was given allowances for it. His importance spoiled him. If we don't live in a country where lineage and celebrity were so intertwined, I'd applaud the loss of such a weak recruit. Alright, so that is probably around halfway through the game, right? So, like... It says I'm 46% complete. So, let's make this a two-parter. I'll finish it up next week. I gotta say, it's not awful, but I'm not thrilled with it. The conversation gameplay is, like, passable, but the fact that you have to grind it makes it immediately tiresome. Like, in a game, an Atreus game, where there are ideas, I always want to call it The End of Eternity, because that's its Japanese name. Resonance of Fate. Resonance of Fate has a really unique gameplay to it, where you, like, have to do positioning and you sort of run and gun in a turn-based game. But there's so much combat, there's so much grinding to the game, that by the end of it, you never want to see it again. Even though it's, like, pretty good, it wears out its welcome faster than a traditional system. Similarly, this wears out its welcome faster than a traditional system, and much faster. You immediately see how the AI takes it easy on you. You immediately see what the optimal strategy is. It's pretty solvable. It gets a bit tiring, definitely, for sure. And the fact that you have to grind it in what is otherwise maybe a 4 or 5 hour long game, and you're spending like half an hour plus just grinding, that feels awful. Take out the grinding, just include a few skills that you get periodically for, like, finding words or winning fights, and it can be compelling enough. And that would lop an hour maybe off of the playtime, which is fine. You don't have to make a long game. So that's my major complaint with it at the moment. Also, the issue of everything being related to discourse, everything being so Professor Layton-y, means that the writing has to do something a bit unusual to be interesting. It can't rely on just good old drama, because the world is too unbelievable to get us invested in the same way that a typical, like, drama or thriller or something like that would. Having good characters helps, and the characters are certainly well defined, but they are just archetypes. Layton's strength is having lots of characters who you interact with for a very short time. So the fact that they're so one-dimensional isn't an issue. And then the main character, Layton, and not Luke, is interesting. You want to know more about Layton. He's charming. There's a strangeness to him. There isn't, right, to our main character, who's just, as she says, the head photographer at a bottling company, and is very proud of that fact. I'm reminded of the game Greedfall, where your character always introduces themselves to new characters with their full title. I'm Desade of the Legion of the Congregation of Merchants. Every single time you meet a new character. A friend of mine was passively watching, and every time
that came up after I had played the game for a while. He's like, again, I'm Desade, I'm Desade, I'm Desade. That sort of repetition in a character trait, in like being proud of your identity, that wears thin really quick. Like, I don't know, does she like golf? How about some other hobbies or passions or interests to make her more interesting, right? The main character in a game like this has got to do a lot of heavy lifting to make up for the lack of other characters who are just cardboard cutouts, you know. And she's not. So it lacks the large cast that something like Layton has. And it also lacks the really interesting protagonist that Layton has. So while it feels like Layton, but bad. So the gameplay misses, and the writing misses, and the music is elevator music, and the art is, well, that's fine. It's certainly got a look to it. And the gameplay loop of talk to everyone on a boat, I've already mentioned, it is something that people who play a lot of RPGs know and hate. And so you get all of these things that are, none of them are deal breakers on their own, but like, it's all little niggles, one after the other, and nothing really exceptional other than how unique the combat is. But that's certainly not enough to carry it. So my feeling on the game is pretty negative at the moment. But it's not awful. It could be a lot worse. This is no Taco Tom. That's my metric for bad games, is Taco Tom. But that's it for now. Let's look at the schedule to see what's for tomorrow. Nightmare Tower. I don't remember anything about that. Let's look it up real quick. Oh yeah, it's a very vertically oriented platformer. Oh, it's old too. 2013. Originally an iOS game. Let's look at the... I don't know, it's on Steam. Let's look at the description there. Campaign and survival modes. Well, gee willikers. 50 different monsters to slice up, and like 5 of them look different, probably. Soundtrack by Hyperduck Soundworks, who did Dust and Elysian Trail, which is a good game. I don't know how the music is. And Scrolls, the card game that was made by Notch that got like a cease and desist from the Elder Scrolls. And this was before he went off the deep end. This is when he's still in Minecraft. I think it was made by him. One epic boss battle. Don't hurt yourself. Alright. Well, I mean, that's